just have one night where you can relax, talk to some friends, talk to people who are going through the same thing that you're going through, and have a good meal. So during the course of the night, I'm going to turn this over to my partner, Michael Watts, in just a few minutes. Michael will take me through the litigation. Michael just flew in from Atlanta to Puerto Rico to New York and to Maui just to share with us. Okay? I came all the way from Guadalupe. So yeah, Michael will be leading the litigation with myself. We have a whole team of lawyers for you. I just want to point some of them out. That's Naomi, my partner at the end of the bar there. Edie, John Gibbons on the end over here. Doug, where's Doug? Doug's over there. We're all attorneys here as part of the team representing you who have signed up with us. And if you're not signed up with us, please talk to our staff. You can see them running around. Suzanne and everybody else. Malama is somewhere in the room. They're here to help you with all this. So again, try to have a good time tonight. Try to get a little more information about what we're doing. And let me just do a quick introduction. Jordy, if you can go. Like many of you, you lost your homes, you lost your property. This is where I grew up. And that's all that's left of it. Yeah. That's all that's left of it. That is something called Filgo rights. Anybody know what that is? I explained it the last time. This is a Filgo right. A Filgo right is what happens to the soil, what happens to the ground when electricity pounds into it. Naturally, it occurs with lightning. When lightning hits the ground, it'll make this crystallized rock. Some of you may remember that movie, Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah, the main actor guy made a whole art gallery out of fulgurites. It never looks that nice, okay? It looks more like this. And the reason I have this up is this is an actual fulgurite, the one I'm holding in my hand, from Lahaina Luna Road between pole 25 and 24, where the power lines came down and sent the electricity into the ground, and I have been recovering these from that area. This is actually the beginning of the fire. That's what you see right there. And that tells us hard physical evidence that the power lines of Hawaiian Electric started this fire. You won't find this anyplace else except between pole 25 and 24. That's where the lines broke at about 3:25 in the morning. They didn't get, but they got energized at about 6 o'clock. And that's where this all happened. So I want you guys to know that when we say we got a case against Hawaiian Electric, we're not making this stuff up. This is hard evidence that the experts recovered that this is what started the fire, okay? So just a little update about what's going on legally. There's so much going on in the courtrooms right now. I was in a Zoom meeting with 30 to 40 attorneys all afternoon dealing with a move by Hawaiian Electric to delay these cases. Their whole strategy has been trying to delay these things, and we're fighting them tooth and nail. And their latest delay conduct is that 2 weeks ago, we were in front of Judge Cahill trying to put together an organized plan to have all these cases proceed through his courtroom in an organized manner, because there's literally thousands of cases coming. The judge told us, you guys gotta organize. I'm not letting 200 lawyers come in and talk at the same time. So he wanted us to have a liaison committee, and that committee speaks to the judge. That committee goes back and talks to the rest of the attorneys. I was appointed on the liaison committee to talk to the judge. So for these last month or two, we've been organizing all the plaintiff's cases so that we can proceed orderly through his courtroom. And we spent 2 hours with him 2 weeks ago getting all the groundwork set up. And after we walked out of that courtroom about a week later, Hawaiian Electric removed all the cases to the federal court for no good reason. No good reason, okay? And in fact, they're gonna have to explain themselves tomorrow to Judge Cahill, because I'm sure he's not real happy about that. Okay. but we're fighting them in federal court. I'm going to be there next Tuesday in front of Magistrate Curran, and we're going to be scheduling the hearing to try to get it back into state court. We'd rather be in state court. Why? Because this is a Maui case. You guys are from Maui. The Maui courts should decide this. Rest assured, we're not afraid of being in the federal courtroom. If that's where we have to do it, we're ready to do it there also. But as a matter of strategy, I'd rather have it in the state court if we can. So that's what we're going to be fighting over the next month or two. And I'll be in front of Judge Curran next Tuesday trying to figure out the scheduling, how to get it back to state court. I talked to you a little bit about liaison committee. That's one of the major committees. The next major committee is something called a master complaint committee. That's the committee that puts together the lawsuit. And John Givens, one of our main team members, he is on that committee. But quite frankly, the two more important, or last of the two important committees, is the steering committee, and Michael Watts is running that committee. And then there's a resolution committee, and Michael's also on that committee. And the point I want you to get is our team is on every major committee involved in this case. There's a whole bunch of other ones that we also serve on, discovery committee, deposition committees, but those four are the big ones. And our team, hopefully your team, we're all on each and every one, okay? So if you got questions tonight, we'd be glad to take it, but right now, what I'm gonna do is just turn it over to Michael, because he's gonna run the litigation part of this, all right?
With your permission, I'm going to sit as I talk to you so that I'm not talking at you, I'm talking with you. I'm Michael Watts. I'm tired right now, and I'm sorry. When I'm not doing wildfire litigation, I'm the world's biggest Dallas Cowboys fan. And Sunday night I stayed up late watching them kill the Eagles, which is great. And then I got on a 2:05 a.m. flight from San Juan, Puerto Rico to New York. Had an 8 o'clock meeting in Manhattan, got on another flight to Atlanta that evening to have a meeting last night to try to settle a wildfire case, which we did. And then I got on a plane this morning, and I don't even remember how long it was to get here from Atlanta, but I'm here. So, yeah, it was a long flight. But thanks for having me, and thanks for coming. What happened last night in Atlanta is important from one perspective, and that is I think I've told you this is a little bit like Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, where every day you get up and you do the same thing over and over and over again. And that experience, as tragic as it is, allows me to see how these things work, okay? Last night, John worked on this case with me. We settled the remaining part of what's called the Archie Creek fire case in Portland, Oregon, for about $560 million. Much smaller fire, but I'm here to tell you that while you feel like you're lost and this is never going to be okay, and it's not okay what happened, we know what we're doing. There is a process. The bad guys try to slow it down. We try to speed it up. That's the game being played. It's not a game, though. It's very serious, okay? But we're pretty good at it. We know what we're doing. And so just have faith and tell all your neighbors. There's a lot of reason why the more of you that get in this together saves you money. And it gives us power, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the fires happened. I'm going to talk to you about the damage caused, which you know. More importantly, I'm going to give you updates on the litigation because, as Jan said, there's a lot of stuff moving at the same time. Talk to you a little bit about the Governor's Fund. Who was at our meeting last month? Okay, well, some of you are going to hear a lot of the same stuff, but I've got some new stuff as well, and then what you guys can expect beginning in January. And in January, as I like to say, I'm going to be polite enough to let you enjoy the best Christmas you can without your lawyers bothering you. But this is a lawsuit, and we have the burden of proof on both liability and on damages. And I've got the liability wired for you, but I need your help to prove up your damages. So we'll start that after Christmas, okay? All right. So I think everybody's got a pretty good idea how the fire started. Just a reminder, that's not what they were saying before I flew out here on an overnight flight and started talking to people and collecting videos. But I'll take you through that. Remember, first week or two, it was a grass fire of unknown cause, which was just nonsense. From New York City, where I was working on another case, I could get on Google Earth and realize that this could not have been anything but a utility fire. So we got out here, we started interviewing people, getting people's videos, pinned it together, and now even they admit that their utility equipment started it. But let me just kind of take you through. You've probably seen this, the bird sanctuary up top. This is the evening of the 7th. That big bright light that you just saw go off is a tree falling down into a line. That causes a fault. That causes the light that you see, and it's very typical. That happened the night before. Unless you have one of the upcountry homes, you may say, well, why are you telling me that? I was in Lahaina, that's what burned up. This is kind of an alarm bell to them that the winds from the hurricane were overwhelming the system in a way that they needed to take protective actions and do things that would have preserved Lahaina, and they did not do so. With respect to Lahaina, at about 3:30, we know that a pole fell to the ground with a live wire. Okay, and we'll start talking about that because there were some smaller fires between 3:30 and 4:30 that were controlled, but again, more notice evidence, for lack of a better word, before the fire that got Lahaina, and I'll tell you about that. But the sensor data from a group called Whisker Labs, that if I have anything to say, are going to be one of your experts. Okay, I talked to them since the last time I came out here and talked to you, and I'll tell you about that. They've got a bunch of sensor data. In addition, this is new from last month, we now have the 911 calls. And this is very important because those calls give us evidence. And we know that from down here, people were smelling smoke at 3:23 in the morning. From a nearby place, down a little further down, they could actually see fire. My belief is the fire and the smoke that they saw was a fire that was ultimately contained, okay? But it's more notice evidence. Something's up. The grid is not withstanding the pressure that the winds from this particular weather event are introducing. That is very important from the standpoint of their obligation to turn off the power in what's called a public safety power shutoff. They should have turned it off, and instead they didn't. And even worse, after the power got knocked out for a couple hours, they re-energized the line at about 6:10 in the morning, which is just a height of stupidity. How do we know that something happened? We've got eyewitnesses that say they saw a bright light coming from power poles up near the substation from the perspective, so we know generally where it was. We've got more than that. We've got evidence that knocked the power out from 4 or 5 different witnesses who have testified that between 3 and 6, there was no power. Okay? People waking up with the air conditioner on and the light. John and I have gone out there with our experts and we've done a fire cause investigation. Our belief is this pole at the end of my finger, that is pole number 7, immediately adjacent to Lahaina Luna Road, up near the school, not there yet, but you know where the big solar farm is and all that stuff, so going up the road there, this is the first pole that fell in that area. This is the replacement of it. It's a brand new pole. It said they replaced it, and of course this is the area right across the street because it was connected to pole number 25, and when one pole falls, it creates pressure on another and you have more fall. And then once one of these lines, which is energized, hits the ground, if there's dry grass, which there was, you have the fuel to spread it and you've got the makings of a fire. That morning fire was about 3 acres large before they got it under control, okay? This is the general area where we were looking, and this is a Google Earth image that I took from New York before I ever came to Maui. Well, I mean, I've been here 10 times. I'm talking about for this case, okay? So I'm thinking, well, something burned up there. And while I'm trying to get the burn pattern, originally I'm thinking it's coming from the substation, but in fact, it was over here and burned up. But we noticed a couple things. You see that truck out there, and that truck, if you go close up, has a brand new pole that they're putting in. And so that kind of led me towards the polls that became 7 and 25, okay? And I think we've since confirmed that. We know it knocked out of the power. We've got multiple people, like Carly here, who woke up at 5 a.m. sweating because her air conditioner didn't work because the power had been knocked out. The lights wouldn't turn on at 5 a.m. A lot of your neighbors in that area were getting up, getting ready to go work at the hotels and the like, and so they've got very good anecdotal evidence that the power was off, and it's pretty consistent, which is good. At 6:10, I don't know who did this, somebody at Hawaiian Electric made the decision to restart the power. Now, having done 14 of these cases across the western United States, there is a cardinal rule that when power is knocked out because of a fault, you never restart the power until you walk the entire line and inspect it. You're inspecting it for things that could have knocked out the power in the first place. Trees falling into lines, poles failing and the like. The case that I just settled yesterday, a lineman failed to walk the line and restarted the power, okay? But that was up in the middle of the woods. He at least had the excuse that it would have been hard. This took place 200 yards from one of their substations on a road that he could have driven, but he didn't. So we've got 2 or 3 witnesses that around 6 a.m. the AC start cranking again. 2 other residents also remember their systems coming back online at least for a little while. That little while was between 6:10 a.m. and 6:39 a.m. How do I know that? Well, I've got people saying it was there, and I've got this sensor data from Whisker Labs, and I'll explain that in a minute because that's going to be pivotal. So the power's on between 6:10 and 6:39, and then it goes out again. At this point, we know that somebody had re-energized the line. Why they did that, it's just the all-time knucklehead move, okay? But when they re-energized the line, they had a live line on the ground. My goodness. Sorry. Hold on. I keep begging them to get me a new clicker every time, and they never do. So stuff like that happens. But anyway, it gets clogged up, and then I push it, and there we are. This is Shane True's video, screenshots of it. This is what started the morning fire, is lines that were down and in effect arcing against the grass, creating the very substance that Jen just talked about. It's called slap, and it's slapping and creating that and burning the sand and creating that hard substance from Sweet Home, Alabama. Okay? It's funny how Hollywood made it look really pretty. It's really not, but there you go. Okay? All right. So we know where it happened. We've got real good data where it happened. I went to Washington with my daughter, Haley. We fed a bunch of questions to the Congress people. And that hearing turned out to be pretty important because Ms. Kimura, who is the CEO of Hawaiian Electric, admitted under oath to Congress that her company's equipment started the fire, okay? Which is a big deal. Now, she tried to crawfish that, well, it started the morning fire. We don't know what started the afternoon fire, okay? And of course, you read all sorts of stuff about, oh, the fire department didn't do their job right. They went to lunch. Well, they've been fighting fire since the night before. They'd worked 14 hours in a row. They got this fire under control. We're told, go get some food. And when they did, getting prepared to go back up country to fight some more fires, the fire, in effect, through high winds, reignited. It never went out. It's hot embers in effect. And we've got pretty good evidence. This is my daughter, Haley, the mother of my soon-to-be grandson. I'm very happy. The bottom line is that the CEO testified in front of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. So we've got that proof, which is very good, on video, and so they can't take it back. Now, at 2:55 p.m., so we're in the afternoon now, nobody in line has had anything burn up, okay? We know what happened. And that is that high wind, in effect, spread those hidden embers from the morning fire. In other words, embers, when you have a fire, stuff flies, they fell into a gully on Bishop Estate land. And I've got photographs of that gully. And this is part 2 of the case. It's in effect a riverbed, for lack of a better word, coming off the mountain. But the problem is it wasn't maintained. There were all sorts of branches and twigs and fuel inside of this gully. So the gully is important for 2 reasons. It's about 15 feet deep. So if an ember flies in there, it's not going to put off smoke until you've heard the phrase fan the flames. So the poor people who fought the fire for hours and watched it and thought they had it out, when they left for lunch, they had no reason to believe that there were embers in there because they were hidden by all these twigs and branches and the like. So the branches are important from the standpoint of, number one, they hid the evidence, and number 2, that's the fuel that allowed that one ember that was missed to become a big river of fire. And it did become a river of fire, and the reason I know that is we have a video of it from one of the neighbors right there. This is the area. The residents in here, some heroic stories. God bless these folks. But they took a video at 2:57 out their kitchen window, and there's your river of fire. It went down the gully, crossed the highway where the memorial is in effect, jumped the highway into the state of Hawaii land on the other side, and then went right into Lahaina. Okay? So I guess my point is that we have very good evidence of exactly what happened. We're not guessing, as Jan said, okay? We've interviewed, John's been up and down that road, we've interviewed pretty much everybody. We've collected videos from iPhones and stuff like that. The fire reconstruction is as strong as I've ever seen in one of these cases, okay? There literally is no dispute. Now they'll dispute because they're trying to save money, but I'm saying they won't win, okay? All right, experts. Again, we have the burden of proof. So I have a series of very high-powered experts. I don't cheap out on experts because we need the best. This stuff's too important. Mike Schultz has been testifying for me in fire litigation since when I had hair, and that's a long time ago. Okay, I think he's the world's best fire cause and origin expert. He was out here within the week, preserving the scene, documenting the scene, collecting the evidence on your behalf. Steve Irwin is a gentleman from Dallas, Texas that I've used in a bunch of cases. He's very good at documenting burn patterns and putting surveys together, because you remember when I showed you that one Google Earth image, you could tell what had burned? That those patterns are very important in what's called the fire triangle to be able to, cosmetically reconstruct it. So he does that for us. In addition to that, we have a metallurgist from the University of California, Berkeley. His name is Bernard Cazillo. Like most Northern California guy, he looks like a Northern California guy, right? But he's a genius on metallurgy. The Golden Gate Bridge is being redone right now because he did some testing that said some of it was going to fail. He's a metallurgist, which is going to be very important on some of this stuff. And then lastly, and this is the part none of you that have been to one of my talks hasn't seen yet, we have a guy named Bob Marshall, who I'm discussing. Remember the Whisker Lab sensors? Okay, so I finally got a hold of these guys, and they are geniuses. And let me just kind of explain what they did, because this is all new stuff since last month. So Bob owns a company that produces something called Ting, T-I-N-G. And it's in effect a device that you put in your home on your lines, and if there's a fault of any kind, it will record it. If all the utilities bought the Ting or something like it, they would get an immediate signal anytime there's a fault. And if you had those fault indicators up and down your infrastructure, you would know ASAP when something went south. Okay? And you wouldn't have dummies restarting the power. Okay? So Ting is something that samples electrical voltage 30 million times per second, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a network of sensors that documents faults on the utility grid and measures the resilience of the grid nationwide. They've got them all over the country. Here is a PowerPoint of where their 400,000 sensors are on the mainland. And they've also got them here on Maui, thank God. In some of the newspaper articles, you've seen this graphic because they gave it to the Washington Post, I believe. And there were 3 different fires. They've got sensor failures where all three fires are exactly when all of my witnesses say they're starting. So the good news here is if each of our witnesses that we've locked down somehow get hit by a truck tomorrow, I've got really good evidence anyway, okay, through this sensor data. And by the way, we've videoed these people. We've got it, pretty well documented. But let me kind of show you what they've got, because it's very interesting and very persuasive. Remember the bird sanctuary video that I showed you with the big flash? I said, well, I know when that fire started. Show me your sensor data up there, and it matched to the second. Okay, so it's corroborative evidence. Okay, and then I said, okay, well, what about all the stuff in the morning? Now, we know now from these two new witnesses south of Lahaina, or east, I can't remember which part of the island I'm on, but where the two witnesses were, we saw smoke in the fire at 3:30. There were faults that were happening. This is the fault the night before at 11:38, and what they see is these sensors show differences in voltage. That tells them something's wrong. So we kind of went through this, and they're building me something far more visually pleasing. But the data is amazing. And here's what's important. So Tuesday, August the 8th, is the highest number of faults, about 108 of them, that they measured in sensors around western Maui. Okay? Important to me is the red flag on the 7th. Those are the tree, falling in the line up country. There's some stuff, maybe the 3:30 in the morning thing and the like. So we know how many there are, and they're going to tell me where they are. But again, we have red flags. These are all faults between midnight and 8 a.m. Here's the faults of poles and trees falling. And here is 6:10 to 6:39 when there's no power on, then they turn it back on. So again, it all fits like a glove, okay? So you should feel good about your liability proof. All right, so we know how the fires happened, the damage that was caused. You can read the paper. It's terrible, obviously, and I'm sorry. 100 of you lost loved ones. Hundreds of people with burn injuries. It's just devastating. We've got body cam video from the police, which is very helpful in reconstructing things. Those are the cameras they make them wear to make sure you're not beating somebody up or shooting them in the back or whatever. That stuff is all there. So we've got this harrowing video that good members of the police are, had on their person as they're fighting this stuff. I mean, it's just terrific work on their part, to try to save people. We know exactly which houses burned and where. 2,700 homes. I'm not going to not bore you with this video, but make you watch it. Hundreds of commercial properties, businesses shut down. All of these folks have claims. I've been to Lahaina, I think 3 times before the fire. All the shops, the art museums, the restaurants, the tourists, all this stuff, they were all shut down. Lots of condos, Airbnb, rental income that's shot. Hotels don't have anybody staying there. Rental car companies. I have a friend that owns Hertz. Their data, everything crashed after this. Tour guides, helicopters, weddings, cruise ships. Maui's economy was affected writ large because of this fire, and everybody's got those claims. Now, West Maui opened for tourism on November the 1st, but all that's great except there's no tourists. And so the damage didn't end on November the 1st. It's going to continue. And so all these business claims that we're going to have, it's really, I'm supposed to, as a lawyer, tell you, only Michael Watts can do this. It's the most complex thing ever. It's really not. You take your tax return for the same time last year, compare it with what you earned this year, and you can set your damages. Okay? There we are. Okay. Housing is a huge problem. I don't need to tell you this. I know about all the people protesting on the beach, and hope they keep doing it. This is a key problem. I hope each of you now have a roof over your head. Keep being the squeaky wheel is my advice, okay? Because it's going to take a while. I wish I could tell you I could snap my fingers, this is all going to be great tomorrow, but it's not. You're going to be in temporary quarters for a good while. Okay, so do the best you can, and let me explain why. There's programs, and I want you to take advantage of it. There's Maui Strong Funds, there's the Lahaina Restoration Fund. Use all that stuff. Just don't sign anything that is a release of your claim against the people who started the fire, okay? One of the reasons it's gonna take a while is that when houses burn, we have all sorts of structural things in our architecture that when it burns, it becomes toxic. When you use the restroom, it goes into a drain that goes through what's called PVC pipe. There's copper in all these lights. There's all sorts of stuff that burns, and when it burns, it becomes toxic. And so when they measure these levels, arsenic, lead, antimony, cobalt, and copper are all present in these burned down structures, your homes. That all has to be cleaned out. Nobody will let you build there until they clean it all out, dig 6 inches into the soil to get rid of it, to make sure that when we rebuild the community, you're not in a toxic land dump, okay? And you gotta get it out of there, okay? The Department of Health says that wildfire ash and dust are toxic and should be avoided. Absolutely true. I am not telling you don't go back into your neighborhoods. That's part of catharsis, closure. You deserve that, okay? But don't spend hours upon hours with a shovel, you know, getting that stuff where you're breathing it. It's not good stuff, okay? We went out to Jan's house. This is some photographs. If you do that, there's something called an N95. You may remember that from COVID, okay? That's the best mask. If you choose to go out and do any work around your house, get a good mask. Respirator if you can, but at the very least, okay? Don't just go out there like me. Now, I wasn't near anybody digging it up, but it's got all sorts of toxic stuff in it, okay? So don't spend days and days and days there, okay? All right. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has a checklist where they document each site. Every one of these houses out there has one of these signs on it, and until they're all checked off, it's not okay. This is the seal of approval from your government that the hazardous stuff has been removed. You have a lot more of these on the right than you do those on the left, okay? It's a process. Everybody's estimating it'll take 12 to 18 months. Now that's the bad news. The good news is we now have money from Washington to pay for that, which is good. And your 2 senators helped get that done, which is good. There's about $16 billion for FEMA. It's not going to go into your pockets, but it is going to enable FEMA to run the programs they have to run to provide temporary housing and the like. You have to be a squeaky wheel with FEMA. I've been in and out of disaster zones my entire adult life. They leave. They set up arbitrary deadlines about you must do X by this date or Y by that date, and then eventually there's going to be a hurricane down in Florida and they're all going to leave Maui and they're going to go to Florida. So don't assume that you can take your time on this, okay? Listen to their deadlines and get your paperwork in. It's very helpful what they can provide and are required to provide by law, okay? And now they've got the money to provide it. All right. Maui County filed a lawsuit against the electrical company. You know that now. That led, it's important to me only from the standpoint of normally companies say we do not comment on pending litigation. Hawaii Electric took out a howitzer and blasted it right towards Maui County and basically said, you started this fire through your shoddy firefighting efforts. You should have turned on the siren. You didn't have the water, all this stuff. I don't want you to get too worried about that. That is relevant from the standpoint of defending the lawsuit Maui County filed against them. It's not particularly relevant to our lawsuits, okay? All right. They put out a big thing. We're not to blame for the afternoon fire. They are partially to blame because their morning fire created the ember which high winds fanned to create the river of fire, but the Bishop of State also has some responsibility for that. I have whistleblowers coming to me out of the kazoo, which is great. If you know anything, information flows both ways. Get it to us, okay? I know that Bishop Estate was given the option to clear out that gully if they would just pay for it, and they didn't. I know that they failed to clear out that gully immediately adjacent to an area where they built a fire break 20 feet away to protect that neighborhood, because they'd had fires on that very land in 2019 and 2022. Okay? So they've got a problem as well. All right. You know, lawyers that file these lawsuits, every time I try a case, a defense lawyer get up and say, oh, Mr. Watts is just doing Monday morning quarterbacking. That's what they call it, to defend themselves, okay? There's gonna be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking about Maui's response, firefighting and the like. My advice is go easy on those guys. They're out there 14 hours straight, working their tail off. Was it optimal? Maybe not. But were they doing the best they could under very trying circumstances? The answer is yes. And I'm talking specifically about those firefighters. Having seen the gully, I now understand how they missed whatever got fanned, okay? And so, anyway, there's a lawsuit. It'll all get going between County and Maui and the like. The good news is, although I haven't sued Maui County, and unless one of you make me, it's not really in my plans. It doesn't have the money. As a trial lawyer, I don't want to pick a jury with a bunch of Maui County residents and say, hey, give me a lot of money so you can raise your taxes. You know, it's a real issue, okay? So they can't take bankruptcy, which is good because a lot of counties can. But let's go on to the litigation. All right. Lots of lawsuits have been filed. They were all consolidated in front of Judge Cahill, who was just doing a good job. Okay, he was. He got us all organized. He was setting trials. He was moving things along. We got all organized. I started a weekly call on Fridays at 11 a.m. so every lawyer on Maui could get on. We shared everything I've shared with you, because the greater good is more important than me having all the evidence. I want everybody to have it. And that's led to an exchange. But there's 50-something lawyers on our calls once a week. Okay. Cahill was just rocking along, setting trials September, October. We were going to ask for a trial this summer. I told you that I thought that would happen last month. Because of this removal, I'm telling you it's not going to happen now. We're going to have to get through a delay because of this removal. We're going to all put our suits and ties on tomorrow to go see Judge Cahill, who set a hearing for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. When somebody removes you from state court to federal court, the state court loses jurisdiction until the federal court decides whether it should be sent back. So you remove, and then there's a motion to remand to get it back, okay? Once they file the notice of removal, it's like putting the brakes on everything. So we'll show up tomorrow, we'll say hi to the judge, but there's really not a lot he can do, even though I know he wants to. Fortunately, and I give Jan's office and Naomi specifically a ton of credit, as I started getting phone calls from people telling me, hey, this is important, that's important about that, we, Jan and Naomi, God bless them, put out some subpoenas that are super important because we got stuff already provided to us before this removal put the brakes on everything. We've got all sorts of good stuff, written discovery that we sent out to each of the defendants. None of those have been in. Good Lord. Jordy, 14th request to get me a new gizmo, okay? Okay, so we've sent out written discovery. There's a Supreme Court case in Hawaii that says the governmental units may be responsible under the law, unlike in California where they have what's called immunity. But we'll get through all of that stuff, okay? But the bottom line is that we've got a lot of information. I started getting phone calls from what I call whistleblowers. This is a guy named Thaler, Mark Thaler, who was a consultant to the chairman of the board of the company and to the board of directors. He's got some stuff. He's provided documents. We subpoenaed those documents. He communicated directly with the board of directors, the CEO, and the president back in that 2015-16 timeframe. And so I subpoenaed his documents. The way that we do it, he put them together, he got them all there, and then I had to call Hawaii Electric. They moved to quash the subpoena. and just kind of spammed him. Oh, he's a disgruntled ex-employee. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, Judge, you shouldn't even let this deposition happen. They'll never win this. The judge is going to let us look at the documents, okay? But you know, they slowed it up, and now that they've removed it, I can't force them to do it. So I gave a quote to the press that the only reason the plaintiffs, or they said the only reason the plaintiffs subpoenaed Mr. Thaler is because he reached out to them and made sensational allegations about completely unrelated company conduct. And I said, well, whistleblowers always reach out. That's what a whistleblower does. They want to get information out there, and we're entitled to see what he has to say. So I told him, we're not going to get into the muddy thicket of who's at fault. It was good enough for the chairman of the board to hire as a special advisor to the board of directors, but now he has a vendetta? You know, come on. That was set for hearing in front of His Honor in state court on January the 17th. Prevent that from happening, they remove everything to federal court. And so he can't even hear this motion until we get it remanded back. It's a way of slowing things up, but that's okay, we'll give them. All right. Importantly, in addition to Thaler's subpoena, we learned the identities of every vegetation maintenance company they contracted with. And what is vegetation maintenance? It's trimming trees to keep them away from the lines, okay? The pole maintenance companies, where they're supposed to go in and inspect all these poles and test it. And let me tell you what the importance of this is. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. You put a wood pole up in 1952, and you subject it to the most corrosive coastal environment you could ever imagine. Salt, wind, water, humidity, salt, wind, water, humidity, rinse, repeat for 70 years. That wood's going to degrade. So you have to inspect it. You have to make sure it still has rigidity as opposed to rotting out. And it's going to lose tensile strength over the years. And then you give it Hurricane Dora 500 miles away with wind. It's applying pressure. The poles snap or fall to the ground. They've got wires, and you see what we're dealing with. We've got really good documents from some of those contractors already because we subpoenaed them before they could remove it. There's over 70 lawsuits that have been filed. There will end up being thousands, okay? And you know, we already represent over 1,000 folks. You want that to be 3,000 because your costs get cut a third, okay? So tell your neighbors, tell your friends and the like. I've represented 70,000 people at once, 55,000 farmers, had 16,000 people in Northern California. We know how to do this on a mass scale, and the idea is we can keep your costs down. That expert Mike Schultz, if he charges $1 million and you're my only client, you got to pay that back. It's expensive. But if you're one of 5,000 clients, you get the world's best expert for $200. It's economies of scale, okay? And we're getting there. Last month, I told you we got a really important hearing on December the 13th at 9 a.m. That's tomorrow. I even bought a suit onto the island of Maui. I didn't know that was allowed, but I have a tie. And I'm all ready to go. And then they remove us. So we'll go down there, we'll say hi to the judge, not much will happen. Let me tell you about this removal. It's both disgusting and interesting. A lot of you guys know about Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway. His partner, Charlie Munger, died last month, or 2 weeks ago maybe, 99 years old. Charlie Munger was a lawyer in Southern California. He started the Munger Tolles firm before he was lucky enough to become Warren Buffett's partner. And that Munger Tolles firm has become the wildfire defense firms for all the utilities we sue. They burned down 1 million acres in Northern California, what's called the Dixie Fires. Our lawyers are Munger Tolles. We know those guys. So they write a letter to us all and to liaison council member Jan's one of 4. And it says, as you may have seen, following the steps taken by the school and Spectrum, that's the telecom company that one guy sued, a big mistake, but that's okay. Hawaii Electric removed the list of cases in attachment C to federal court on December the 5th. Today's the 12th, so 1 week ago, everything got pulled out of state court into federal court, okay? And let me just use Jan's lawsuit as an example. Jan is a resident of the state of Hawaii, suing a utility that is the resident of the state of Hawaii. There is no federal court jurisdiction. So it should be in state court. So how did they remove it? Well, first of all, they know that we want to get it back in what's called a motion to remand. And they're suggesting a briefing schedule that we don't even have a hearing until March. They removed them on December the 5th. If we buy their schedule, they just bought 4 months of delay. Another 4 months that you're out of your homes. Another 4 months that they get to hold on to their money. It's just a delay tactic, okay? The legal argument is not yet being heard, but we have a status conference next Monday, December the 18th, in federal court in Honolulu, in 4 cases where there's been a removal and a remand. And so the judge is going to decide next Monday what the schedule looks like. These clowns want to get a 4-month delay. Jan and our folks are coming in and says, decide it tomorrow, Judge, send us back. Because we've got a state court trial judge who's ready to put him to trial. Because he lives on this island and he knows what you're facing. Folks over in Honolulu look at this as a legal exercise. What's the legal issue? So there's motions to remand, which is, remember, we want to go back. You removed us, send us back. So all that's already been briefed, and this is one of them. We called it the removal is a brazen effort to deny Maui victims of their proper chosen forum. There's a saying in the law, the 3 most important parts of a lawsuit are venue, venue, and venue. And really what they're trying to do is take a Maui lawsuit and have it decided in Honolulu. That's all this is. Delay and venue manipulation. Okay? Even worse, the fact that one guy sued the telecom company under some theory that I still haven't bought, that it may have been his poll, he put too much stress on the line or whatever. That telecom company is based in a state other than Hawaii, creates interstate issues. Even though our lawsuits are just Hawaii people suing a Hawaii utility. There's a statute that was passed right after 9/11. It's designed to put big disaster cases with people from different states all in the same proceeding for efficiency is what they call it. And I'll tell you about that in a second. Most insidiously, if they can get one of them removed, they can tag all the rest of them and say they should be added to it. There are some guys that filed a class action lawsuit, a firm in Southern California I've never heard of in these cases, hooked up with a firm in Honolulu that I've never heard of in these cases, and filed a class action purporting to represent all of you, and decided it was a good idea to file it in Honolulu. I come from the school that people ought to get to choose their own lawyers, okay? That class action is not going to be what solves your case, but those class action guys just agreed it's okay that we're in federal court. We'll agree with that. And so there's kind of an insidious, people not acting right. This statute says if you got jurisdiction in one case, you can drag the others in with it. That's what they're trying to do. So I don't know what kind of side deal happened between these class action guys agreeing to federal jurisdiction, but all of a sudden they've done it, and on the 18th we're going to hear, well, the rest of them need to be here, we need efficiency. This is under the Multi-Party, Multi-Forum Trial Jurisdiction Act of 2002. It allows the consolidations of actions growing out of a single accident that involves the death of at least 75 individuals. It was meant for things like a plane crash, a single bar that burns up and 100 people are in, a single event. There's all sorts of arguments that we have that they're even pulling cases from the upcountry fires the day before into this. We've got lots of arguments why this doesn't apply. But the bottom line is that we're taking the position that this is primarily a Hawaii on Hawaii dispute, and therefore this doesn't apply. Now, I want to be clear. You can tell I like our liability case, right? But I always warn people, a lawyer that says he can't lose a lawsuit is either a liar or somebody that doesn't try very many of them. Okay? This issue is so bizarre. There's not a single case in the history of the United States that says what this statute says, 1369. Nobody's ever used it before in any way that matters. Okay, so we're creating law from scratch. All right? And I've got a lot of people that are concerned about a couple of these Hawaii federal judges where they just kind of hold on to this because they think it's an interesting piece of litigation. We're going to try to get it back. But I agree with Jen, if we don't get it back, it's not like being in Honolulu.
Oh, heads up!
Hey, Jordy, get me a new,
Everything.
yeah. We need some gooder equipment. We do lawsuits better than we do this equipment. Okay. You know, if wind can start a fire, it can knock over this. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So the bottom line is that we're gonna have to see what happens here. But best case, they bought themselves some delay. Worst case, we end up in Honolulu. Most of my lawsuits are in federal court. I'm fine in federal court. I just think you deserve to have your case heard on Maui. Okay? So we'll fight. Okay, that's the update on the litigation. You've heard about the governor's fund. Unless you're one of the families that lost a loved one, the 100 so far, there's 4 people who we don't have DNA for yet, but we've lost 104 people. This doesn't really apply. This is what I call a first step. And we're working with a bunch of people about this. Your former Governor Wahey is consulting with us, been very helpful about what's going to have to happen in the legislature to do X, to do Y. So he's a good asset. We're talking with Governor Green's advisors. He's got people that he's assigned to this project, and I'll throw some props at him from this perspective. He hasn't done everything right, but at least he's trying. I've been in a lot of cases where the governors just pretend this stuff doesn't happen. And so, you know, we're working with them. This $150 million recovery fund does not provide a dollar for those of you that lost houses, does not provide a dollar to those of you whose businesses were shut down. It's a template. It's designed to put out an idea, get some feedback. It's not near enough money, but he did get some of these defendants to come in and kick in some money to start this fund. And so it's got people thinking about it. But again, don't fall for it that you should go sign up for it and all your problems are solved. He went and found a very good guy. This is my friend Ken Feinberg. Michael Keaton played a guy in a Netflix movie called Worth. This is about Ken Feinberg. Feinberg, in all of the biggest disasters where Congress appropriates money, is the guy that they give that money to. He runs a resolution fund. 3 big examples. When the government used Agent Orange in Vietnam to, in effect, chemically clear forests so you could see where the other side was. It also, it's just a terrible thing. All our guys got sick, okay? So we created an Agent Orange fund that he administered. When the 9/11 happened and thousands of people died, Congress appropriated about $6 billion to, compensate those folks for the loss of their loved ones, their wage earners and the like. He divided it up. BP hired him after the oil spill in 2010, and he was running that for a while. The fund is inadequate for a number of reasons. It's less than 5% what some of the death cases got in Northern California following the 17 and 18 fires. It's well below what Hawaii death cases get. It does not include all of the people that started this fire. They want a release of the lawsuit against everybody, but everybody's not kicking in. For example, Bishop Estate hadn't done it yet. And of course, that gully is on them. And so it doesn't provide any money to rebuild your houses, doesn't restart any business. It doesn't include any punitive damages to deter and the like, and it's just inadequate. But as I say, it's a good start. I've never seen a fund like this started within 2 months, and so I'm not angry about it. But when you have a $35 billion entity that owns land with this gully in it, and they get specifically asked to clear it out, and here's what it'll cost, and they say no, and that's the reason that Lahaina burned, they've got some liability. They need to pay. So we'll work on that. All right. We may end up in Honolulu whether we get remanded anyway. Okay? There's 2 ways to get to federal court. One of them is what they just said. There's a federal question. I don't think there is. But we can get going, and I predict this case is going to end up in federal bankruptcy court. Okay? And a lot of my lawsuits end up there. And bankruptcy is a situation where your liabilities exceed your assets. This company was worth about $4 billion a day before this fire. It's now worth about $1.8 billion, and they caused about $8 or $9, $10 billion in damages. I think I told you all when I flew overnight to come investigate this fire, a friend of mine, Jeff Feely, who writes for Bloomberg, asked me, "What are you doing?" So I'm out here on Maui, and this was within days of the fire. And I gave him a quote that all the evidence, videos, witness accounts, burn progression, and utility equipment remaining points to Hawaii Electric's equipment being the ignition source for the fire that devastated Lahaina. I told him that on the 11th of August. It was picked up by the New York Post, and that next morning, the stock basically halved. And it went from 35 to about 20. It's now at about 13. And so that company that was worth 4 is worth less than half of that now, okay? And that has consequences. Do they have any liability insurance? They do, but it's only $165 million, not near enough. A lot of these policies are what's called wasting policies. Remember that Munger Tolles lawyers that are billing time over nothing to delay things? If it's a wasting policy, all those lawyer bills are eating into this 165. So it's got to come out of the company, not out of the insurance. PG&E, for example, had over $1 billion. They say that the utility alone faces $4.9 billion in potential liabilities. I think it's more than that. But the point is they don't have the money. Okay? So they could end up in bankruptcy. There's about $5.5 billion in lost property. The book value is $2.2 billion. So before you get to a single death case, a single injury case, a single business loss case, they're underwater. There's going to be a big fight about whether just Maui Electric is responsible or is the parent corporation responsible. If they do go into bankruptcy, you can anticipate they'll just put the sub in. They won't put the parent in. But they'll want a release for the parent for anything that happens in bankruptcy. There's a case in front of the United States Supreme Court involving Purdue Pharma, the Sacklers, that purposely sold, OxyContin when they knew that it was killing people. Okay, those people put in $6 billion, don't want to get sued. The rest of it's in Switzerland. Supreme Court's deciding whether or not you're entitled to do what's called a non-consensual third-party release in bankruptcy. That directly affects you, and we'll figure it out. Most people say this company's going to end up in bankruptcy. It looks like the Munger Tolles law firm is going to fleece them first and bill a bunch of time over nothing. Okay? The dirty little secret is all the litigation in the world's not going to change the fact that they don't have enough money. Okay? So I believe this case will end up in bankruptcy and we'll settle it there. They've already suspended their dividend, causing the stock to drop. They made some bond payments that were due, but recently they suspended guidance and again the stock dropped. This is a company that's teetering. What's happening now is a lot of the upper level management have stock options that are going to go away if they hit bankruptcy. So they're trying like whatever they can do to keep that from happening. The equity's going to get wiped out. So where do we go in the future? Number one, whether you like him or not, he is the guy that can get this done. So we're dealing with the governor's advisors. There's a guy named Andy Weiner that we're working with that's been assigned to help work on this. He used to be the chief of staff for Senator Schatz. There's a guy named John Rapasardi with O'Melveny and Myers in New York. He's one of the world's most preeminent bankruptcy lawyers. He did the bankruptcy of the island where I lived half the year, Puerto Rico. The entire island went through bankruptcy. This guy did it. He's very skilled. He is O'Melveny's global restructuring chair. This is a law firm that has 1,000 lawyers. And he's the top dog in bankruptcy. So he's involved and he's advising the governor. And of course, I think they need to end up there and hopefully he'll do that. There's got to be a legislative solution. Number one, you got to put some money in. So the equity's got to walk away with no further value. In PG&E, there was $25.5 billion new dollars that came in to pay off all the claims and all the debts and everything like that. The insurance companies that paid out $18 billion only collected 11. The damage in that deal was probably about 21. They settled it for 13.5. So everybody took a haircut. But there was a legislative fix to create a risk pool to induce new investors to put in that $25.5 billion. We need a legislative solution to protect this company from future wildfires, or nobody will come in and inject the capital that's needed to pay your claims. Okay? So we're working with the governor's people on that. It's more difficult. You have the highest utility rates in the country. It's not what I would call an exploding rate base like PG&E, so it's less attractive to investors. But we'll work through it. And so we're going to need the state of Hawaii involved. And fortunately, they've got some fault for not building a fire break. And it's just going to take everybody getting there. We were proposing what's called a fault allocation trial between the different entities on the one hand of the utility, the Bishop Estate, and the state of Hawaii. They're already arguing about who's going to put in what into this $150 million fund. When that fund needs to be several $1 billion, they're going to argue even louder. So we just need a jury to tell us, out of 100% responsibility for this fire, how much is the utility, how much is the Bishop Estate, and how much is the state of Hawaii for not doing the break. So this is all, it's complex stuff. These are all the different defendants. Whoever chose to sue the telecom company is the reason we're all in federal court. But we'll get through it. It'll be all right. There is strength in numbers. It's good that you're here, and we appreciate it. Tell all your neighbors, tell all your friends. I've said I love Hawaii's rule against solicitation for 30 days. I came out here for 24 hours to investigate the fire, and then I left for 30 days because you shouldn't have lawyers knocking on your door. I'm told they were, which is not cool and not legal. But the bottom line is that get through Christmas and then look at this as a business project. Okay, we got work to do. The more people that engage alongside of you, the more times I can cut Mike Schultz's bill. That saves you money directly. It also, if they go into bankruptcy, each claim is a vote. I was able to keep PG&E from settling light in the bankruptcy in Northern California because myself, Doug Boxer, and the like, we amassed the most votes. We had 16,000 people. They couldn't do a deal without us. So we had a block. We're working on that here. We've got about 1,000 votes right now. We need to get that number up so that we control enough where they have to go through us to get you paid correctly, as opposed to settling with somebody that hadn't done this before. Okay? So, we got a lot of stuff going on. All right? You get your holiday, which I know this is going to be a tough one, guys, and I'm sorry. But do the best you can. Hopefully there's a roof over your head, however inadequate it may be. Just hug your family. Let's get through it. You're going through a psychological rehab right now. Every one of you has got post-traumatic stress disorder. Work on it. Go into group, talk to psychologists, talk to church groups, work on it. Get together, start a Facebook page. That's important from the standpoint of a year or two from now when all the contractors come and start rebuilding. Some of them are thieves and they will steal from you. It's critical that one of you when one of you gets ripped off, that the whole group knows. Okay? Same thing with lawyers. There's a lot of people that say, hey, I'm a wildfire lawyer that I've never seen them before. And they'll leave. And then your claim will sit. We're not going to do that. Okay? You know where our office is, but more importantly, I'm going to put you to work beginning in January. Expect phone calls from my office. Okay? Folks in Puerto Rico, folks in San Antonio. We've got a lot of people on the ground here. We've been hiring up folks left and right. There's work to be done, but I am not going to do it to you until after Christmas and the New Year. Okay? But start thinking about how we're going to prove your damages. I need the homes and the vehicles and proof that you own them. Okay? Personal property, we're going to put you through a process you're going to hate. I call it contents college. The value of your house is not just the value of the structure, it's all the stuff in it. Okay? Believe it or not, somebody would pay money for this if it were working. Okay? I'm teasing, of course, but all your furniture, all your stuff in your kitchen, the art on your walls, all that stuff has a value. If you will list it out, and we'll go through a series of prompts, we'll make that part of your claim. What just settled in Oregon, the reason that we got a hell of a lot more money than anybody else is all of our people did Contents College. Then we go outside and we have what's called an arborist. There's a guy named John Brown. We'll document every tree that was in your yard and the cost to replace it, the shrubs, the replacement cost of the driveway. Okay? All of this costs money to replace. You got to document it. Obviously, with respect to injuries, we'll get all the medical records and the medical bills, prove up the pain and suffering. The deaths, we've got to take out of states. We've got to do all that right, and we're working through it. The businesses, we've got to prove lost income. Even if you don't own a business, if you had a job at a business that closed down for 3 months, you lost wages. So we've got to prove all that up, okay? I got a lot of head shakes there. You know, there was a lot of temporary unemployment, and some of you are permanently unemployed or have to go find a new job, okay? So we'll deal with all that. On general liability, I'm going to start collecting your photographs and your videos from that day, okay? It proves that you were in the zone of danger. It also helps me immensely in reconstructing the progression of the fire. We've got this really cool system where we take everybody's videos from different angles, and the computers will tell us where the fire was at what time, and juries find it very persuasive. Just as importantly, I need all the photographs from inside of your house before the fire. This is usually Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, and the like. You take photographs for the smiles. I take photographs to see the number of art pieces that are on that wall and how much it costs. That fan, I've got to buy 4 of them just for this little room here. All the lights have to be replaced and the like. The HVAC system, you know, whatever I can document, okay? We will have people at this office, you know, during work hours until we're done, okay? I think we signed a 5-year lease or a 3-year lease, I don't remember. But we've always had these offices done, okay? Literally, this month, I'm closing down the office in Santa Rosa, California, because we're done. But it's been open for 6 years, okay? We're not leaving. There are 3 law firms representing you. I haven't said who Chuck Choi is. You know Jan, he's our local hero, and he's the man. You're going to see a lot of him, okay? This guy's had a wildly successful career. Could have shut it down, was planning on shutting it down, and he said, you know what, I'm going to do this for my island. And what he's doing is working his tail off on behalf of you on a daily basis, okay? You've got my firm, I've got offices all over the place. Wherever there's a fire, I've got an office. And then this guy may end up being most important, Chuck Choi, because I'm betting that we're going to end up in bankruptcy court. I went and found you the best bankruptcy guy in Honolulu, in the state, in my view, okay? And he's part of the team, and we will end up in bankruptcy court, more likely than not, okay? So we've got all the bases covered. I think we're in good shape. It's not much fun, guys, and the last thing I want to leave you with, and then eventually John Gibbons is going to pull me out of here because I have another meeting with a witness in 30 minutes. I don't remember where, but this is a community problem. These problems get solved when communities act as one. If any one of you took on a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they'd crush you. If an entire community does it, we can crush them. Okay? I've seen it over and over and over again. So literally, do the work of finding out who all your neighbors are and making sure they're involved. Okay? The sooner we get the entire community organized and everybody involved, the better off you're going to be. Okay? Quick questions, and then, John, what time do I have to leave? What time is it?
7.
Oh, I'm supposed to leave at 7. All right, any quick questions? Sorry. Over here. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. How do we, okay, good. How do you suggest that we submit videos? Beginning in January, because I will not bother you until Christmas is over, okay? We're going to send you information about how to do that. There's cool uploading systems now. I use Hightail, which takes big files and everything like that. If you don't know how to do it, we can pull them off your phone and the like. We'll show you how to do all that. But the bottom line is that, look, I represent 200,000 people at once, at all times. I can't do that with paper. So we will not take paper from you. Most of it burned up anyway. It's all digital files, goes into a database, and we maintain it there. Okay? But the bottom line is we'll show you how to upload it. This is a big checklist process. And when you represent several thousand people at once, you got to make sure all several thousand of them hit all the spots, right? And so we'll do it together. Some of you will be a lot faster than others, but it's a process. And I've got 240 people that work for me that their job is to make sure that nobody gets left behind. Okay? So we'll get that. Anybody else? Okay, let me tell you one other thing that's going to start happening in January. COVID shut down every courthouse in America for almost 2 years. That led to a huge backlog of trials. Lots of cases that should have been tried in 2021, 2022 are starting to be tried in 2023 and still in line on 2024. I have never seen a trial schedule like I have next year. It's trial after trial after trial after trial. Okay? Trials create settlement pressure that leads to what happened last night in Atlanta with respect to that organ fire. They didn't settle because they wanted to be good guys. They settled because I've got a gun to their head on January the 30th with a trial setting. Okay? When I'm in trial, I can't fly out to Hawaii to meet with you in person. But I can get on a mass Zoom call and do this very same thing over Zoom. I can do what's called a telephonic town hall where I call you and talk to thousands of you at once. So we'll have emails and text updates and the like. We're going to use a lot of technology next year, okay? Because I'll call you from courthouses throughout the United States when I'm in trial at night after court that day, so I can keep you updated, okay? My commitment is that we will do some sort of a meeting, either in person or telephonic town hall, at least once a quarter to keep you updated. I've been doing it once a month right now while you need it. But the spring, while these guys are jerking us around and making us spend time to get out of federal court, we're going to use that time wisely to get all our damages in order. Okay? Get our damages proof ready into that database that this young lady asked me about. Okay? Because I know what you have to prove. And so we'll just check, and we'll do it as many people as we've got. Okay? That's the spring, is my people bugging the hell out of you. So be ready for it. Okay? It's like cough medicine. You don't really enjoy it, but it's really good for you. Okay? The spring is cough medicine. One other thing I want to tell you. I've seen the progression steps of absolute trauma in the starry eyes of PTSD to where you are now, several months later, where you're still wounded, you're hurting, but your brain's working again. Okay? When I put you through this work in January, February, and March, it will cause you to get pissed off. A little bit at me, mostly at them. Okay? You will have a steely-eyed resolve. Okay? Once I get you to that steely-eyed resolve, it's the way we rebuild Lahaina. When these lawsuits are done correctly, communities get rebuilt. I can take you to entire neighborhoods in Santa Rosa, the town of Paradise, that are rebuilt with money that we got people in lawsuits. I can also take you to other communities that were burned down, that were handled incorrectly by others. And that just causes a regional recession where people just leave Maui. And 6 generations of history in Lahaina, because you can't afford to live here. And so you got a neighbor in Arizona that's going to take you in, and you got to live in Arizona of all places. Okay? So please work with us in January, February, March. We will make this work. Okay? All right, I'm going to run to go get this witness. Thank you.
We're gonna have Jan come up really quick and say some final words.
All right. Is that enough information or what? Okay. Hey, I just want you to know, we got a good case. Hang with us. This thing is gonna work out. Right? I picked Michael specifically because I had every wildfire major firm in the nation contact me, wanting me to be their lead attorney on Maui. Okay, but we vetted all these guys. We looked at them. I had my whole staff review these guys. And I chose to partner up with Michael, and he has been absolutely phenomenal ever since. We're the only guys, as best as I know, with a full-on office open in Kahului. That office is going to be there from now till this case is over. So please, we put together a great team. I hope you guys are on our team too. Amen? Yeah. You know, Malama is going to close the meeting.
Hi guys, I'm Malama. I was born and raised in Hana. And just, first of all, I'm so sorry to what happened to you folks. And everybody in Hana is with you guys in spirit. And from my part, I'm Jan. And like he said, we have our office open. So tomorrow we're going to be doing the same presentation in our office from 10 a.m. to 11. So if you folks, friends, family, want to hear the information, we're going to be at our office on Alamakani Street by Ballards. Okay, tomorrow, and the office is open, regular hours, and we even are open on Saturdays sometimes. But if you need to come by on a different time, make an appointment with us. We're in the office every day, we're out in the community every day, trying to get this information out to you guys. So if you guys can help us and tell your friends and family, and send them over to our office, okay? And we have folders here with information for you folks, information about the attorneys. It has a copy of the contract. So if you folks need some time to read that over, if you have questions, you can always call us. Everything is on the website. If you don't want to come in or talk to anybody and you want to just sign up on the website, you can do that very easily. So please take some food. If you guys didn't get enough to eat or you want to take some food with me, you can take some food. And thank you so much for coming. Oh, and the presents. Okay, we got some presents for kids. So if you guys have kids you need to give presents to, go ahead and help you guys out, okay? Please.